Hello, historians, and welcome to your Unit 5.5 podcast lesson. Before we start the podcast, let's go ahead and take some time to complete our Do Now. For the Do Now, our directions are to break down the objective by circling, boxing, and underlining the objective components. Within our objective, you should have 3 thinking skills you're going to circle, 3 pieces of content you're going to box, and then 1 exit-taken component you should have underlined. Take the next couple seconds to pause this video, find the objective at the front of your marginalia notes, break down the objective, and then restart the video to ensure you broke down the objective correctly. Go ahead and pause your video now. Alright, so let's make sure that we broke down our objective correctly. Our objective reads, given marginalia notes, students will be able to, you should have circled, define, list, and identify. Those are our 3 thinking skills for today. Let's go ahead and take a look at what our content is. For content, you should have gone ahead and boxed great powers, because you're going to be able to define that. 2 actions each of the great powers from today's lecture notes took before World War I, because you're going to have to be able to list this. And finally, you should have boxed which main background cause those actions represent, because you're going to have to identify this. If you haven't boxed these 3 items now, please make sure you box them. You're going to show that you've mastered this entire objective today by completing an exit ticket with 80% accuracy. And when we get to the end of the podcast, you'll get a chance to take a look at that exit ticket. For our target, the Do Now was just completed. We're currently going over the target as we speak. In just a moment, you'll complete your marginalia notes, Unit 5.5, with this podcast, and then you'll have some time to complete your exit ticket. If you finish the exit ticket early today, then you should go ahead and complete the Unit 5 formative assessment too. This is a take-home formative assessment, which will be due next class, Tuesday, January 16th for periods 1 and 6, or Wednesday, January 17th for periods 5 and 6. Even though this is due next week, you should get a head start on completing it in class today if you have extra time. Remember that if you can get this done in class today, you won't have to complete it as homework. In terms of items that are due today, your World War I main background causes IDs are due. Please make sure to turn them into the back tray before you leave. And like I mentioned, homework due next class will be the Unit 5 formative assessment take home. Alright, so let's jump into the notes. The notes for today are going to focus on the relationships that the great powers had pre-World War I, meaning before World War I started. How were the European countries with lots of power, how were they treating each other? What were they doing? What were they not doing? How was their relationship positive or negative? Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at these notes. The pre-World War I great powers. Please notice that the title Pre-World War I Great Powers has 2 fill-in-the-blanks that you should be filling in. Now, if you don't remember, pre means before. So we're going to be looking at before World War I started in 1914, before this big tragic war, what were the great powers doing? Before we can even take a look at what they were doing, we need to understand what the word great powers means. So let's take a look. The great powers were the countries in Europe with lots of power before World War I started. So if we take a look at our European map here, we can see that there's lots of different European countries. And some of these European countries were considered great powers, meaning countries with lots and lots of power before the war even started. These nations will play a big role in how World War I erupts and plays out. Some great powers were empires, meaning some of these great power countries were actually bully countries. They were bully nations who had conquered victim nations. So it's interesting to see how in second semester, Unit 5, we're still going back and talking about things that we learned in Unit 3, Industrial Revolution, which allowed countries to become bullies. and also how we're going back and talking about Unit 4, which is imperialism, the act of bullying. Let's go ahead and list out some of the bully countries and some of the great power countries that we're going to be talking about today. If we take a look, we can see here in this map all of the European countries. And what's interesting about this particular map is that the artist of this map chose to draw these countries not as actual land masses, but instead as people. People who, if we look, were not only armed with swords, were not only armed with shields, were not only armed with bows and arrows, but people who look really aggressive and people who are kind of facing each other in a fighting manner. And so this picture does a nice job of showing that before the war even started, these great power countries, Great Britain, France, Germany, Russia, Italy, the Ottoman Empire, a bully country made up of lots of victim countries, and the Austrian-Hungarian Empire, another bully country, all of these great powers here were pretty much really already hating each other and already under a lot of tension and stress before the war even started. And so you can see in this picture how Europe before World War I is kind of like a ticking time bomb ready to explode. Now today, we're only going to focus on these first 4 countries. So today we'll take a look at Great Britain, France, Germany, and Russia, what they were doing, what they weren't doing, and we'll kind of align that to see how are their actions militaristic, or how are their actions imperialistic or nationalistic, or how were their actions showing that they were forming alliances. So we'll be taking a look at how these 4 great power countries were basically practicing militarism, alliances, imperialism, and nationalism, and how their actions are going to ultimately cause World War I. Next week, we'll take a look at what Italy, the Ottomans, and Austria-Hungary were doing, and we'll take a look at how their actions also caused World War I. So pre-World War I tensions, this slide is a little bit of review here. Make sure that you've gone ahead and filled out the top portion of our title as well. So before World War I, there was lots of tension. And we talked about this last lesson when we talked about Maine, militarism, alliance, imperialism, and nationalism. Prior to World War I starting in 1914, all of those great power countries that we just saw on the first slide, all of the great powers of Europe already had tension between them due to militarism, alliances, imperialism, and nationalism. Please make sure that you're completing these blanks. Now, when you think of these 4 main background causes, think of these 4 main background causes as dynamite. Each and every single one of these great power countries is accumulating more and more and more dynamite. And dynamite kind of causes tension between people because people know that dynamite can blow up at any time. Now, today we're just going to focus on the dynamite that was going on in Europe. And next week, we'll talk about what was the actual fire, what was the actual match or trigger cause, make sure you jot this down, what was the actual trigger cause that's going to cause all of these pieces of dynamite to blow up, okay? So we'll kind of take this trigger cause into more focus next week. But today, we're going to take a look at Great Britain, France, Russia, and Germany, and we're going to take a look at the dynamite that those 4 countries were basically collecting. Now, as we go through this lesson, we're going to talk about one great power country at a time. And while we're talking about that great power country, I want you to keep in mind that we might see examples of them practicing I for imperialism, practicing N for nationalism, or practicing M for militarism. I'll help us on the first couple slides to pinpoint you exactly how to identify these types of actions. So let's go ahead and fill in the blanks. So what was pre-World War I Germany doing? Well, Germany had just won the Franco-Prussian War against France. And because they had won this war, they felt like they should be able to take territory away from France. And if we take a look at this map, here is France, here is Germany. These two great power countries have just fought a war. Germany has won this war, and so now Germany feels like it should be able to imperialize. It should be able to take territory away from France. And the territory that Germany chooses to take is this little chunk right here called Alsace and Lorraine. Since we have Germany taking territory from another country, that's going to be an example of imperialism. So you should go ahead and annotate an I right here in this circle for the bullet point, took Alsace and Lorraine territory from France. Let's take a look at another imperialistic action that Germany was taking before World War I. So go ahead and annotate this circle as an I, and let's take a look at that imperialistic action. Germany also forced France to pay war reparations, meaning payback money. Sometimes when you lose a war, the winning countries will force you to pay them money. Now, if you remember, imperialism is not just about taking land. Imperialism is also about controlling a country politically, meaning its government, socially, meaning the people's personal choices, and even economically, meaning controlling their money. And so when Germany forced France to pay war reparations, payback money, Germany was basically practicing imperialism against France. Let's take a look at the next bullet point, which is going to show us a nationalistic action, meaning an action where Germany is trying to show its pride in its own German culture, and maybe even using its German pride to kind of put France down and make the French people feel like their culture is less. Now, after Germany won the Franco-Prussian War, Germany forced France to sign the peace treaty. A peace treaty is a document that ends a war. Now, the embarrassing part of this peace treaty is that the French were forced to sign this treaty. They were forced to sign this document acknowledging defeat at their own French Palace of Versailles. The French Palace of Versailles back then was pretty much like the White House. It would be really embarrassing for the United States if we lost a war and then the winning country forced us to sign this document, this peace treaty, this document acknowledging that we lost. It'd be pretty embarrassing if we had to sign that at the White House. It's kind of like a slap in the face to go to the White House and make us sign this document that says we're the losers of the war. And so it was really embarrassing for France that Germany rubbed it in its face that they lost the war. And then Germany physically went to the Palace of Versailles. This is a snapshot of the palace, and Miss B is here in front of the palace. You can see me here. Germany came to this big, important palace, which was like the French White House, and forced the French to sign this treaty saying, yeah, we the French people, we suck, we lost this war, and we're going to pay all these reparations, and we're going to let you have some of our land. So this was pretty embarrassing. It's an example of Germany practicing nationalism. The last action that Germany takes is a militaristic action. So Germany is going to be showing its love for war and belief that war and aggression is the only way to solve problems. So go ahead and annotate this last circle an M for militarism. And let's see what Germany did. Now, after Germany defeated France and took territory and made them pay back reparations and forced France to sign a treaty, Germany also started kind of focusing on itself. And it started focusing on itself by trying to increase the amount of German children born in order to enlist those children in the military. And Germany also started focusing on industrialization, meaning increasing its weapon power by creating more factories and more machines and more technology. And the goal of a higher birth rate and the goal of industrialization was to use those two things in order to gain more military power. So we can see Germany is really focusing on militarism and ramping up its military. Our time for this first session of notes is about to end. Go ahead and hit pause, jump into the description section for this podcast, and find the link for session 2. Session 2 will take you through the remainder of the lesson and the notes.